There's a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work or life or stress. It comes from people. The kind of tired that sits in your chest after talking to someone who's supposed to care about you, but somehow leaves you feeling smaller, heavier, or strangely wrong about yourself. We don't always notice it at first. We tell ourselves, I'm overthinking, or they didn't mean it, because that's what people like us do. We give chances, we over-explain, we try to be understanding even when it hurts. But deep down, your body knows when someone is slowly draining the life out of you. Psychologists call this a threat to emotional safety. Not dramatic danger, just quiet harm. The kind that makes you second-guess your worth, your boundaries, your voice. Maybe you've felt it the way you edit your personality around certain people, how your energy drops the moment their name pops up on your phone, or how you walk away from a conversation feeling guilty for things you didn't even do. This isn't weakness. It's your nervous system trying to protect you, long before your mind admits what's going on. And here's the hardest truth. Some people will never understand the pain they cause. If you try to tell them, they flip it back on you. If you set a boundary, they get offended. If you pull away, they act like you're the problem. These are the people you can't confront, can't fix, and can't keep carrying. Not because you're cold, but because you've already carried too much. Quiet distance is sometimes the only form of self-respect they allow you to have. Because in the end, quietly eliminating someone isn't about pushing them out, it's about pulling yourself back. Back to your peace, back to your worth, back to the version of you who doesn't live in fear of disappointing someone else. Healing starts the moment you realize you're allowed to leave any relationship that makes you abandon yourself. And you don't need a fight, an explanation, or anyone's permission. Just the courage to choose peace over pain and yourself over the person who keeps hurting you. There comes a point in some relationships where you're not angry, you're not dramatic, you're just tired. Tired in a way that sits in your chest. Tired in a way that makes your mind go quiet. And that's usually the moment your brain starts choosing distance, even before you admit it to yourself. Psychology calls this emotional overload, when your system has taken in more stress, confusion, or hurt than it can process. Quietly stepping back isn't a strategy you plan, it's a natural reaction, like pulling your hand away from something that keeps burning you. For those of us who've lived through painful relationships, quietly eliminating someone isn't about being cold, it's about survival. When someone constantly dismisses your feelings, turns things around on you, or makes you walk on eggshells, your nervous system learns that speaking up only leads to more pain. Research shows that constant invalidation activates the same stress response as real danger. So your brain stops choosing confront. It switches to protect. Not with shouting, not with fighting, but with silence, reduced messages, fewer explanations, and finally, distance. Your body leaves long before your mouth finds the courage to. And here's the truth most people don't realize. By the time you walk away quietly, you've already tried everything. You've explained, you've forgiven, you've waited, you've hoped. Quiet elimination becomes the last boundary, the one you set when you have nothing left to give. Psychologists call this self-preservation, the moment your emotional system decides, I cannot lose any more of myself in this. That moment feels gentle, but it's actually the beginning of healing. But what about people who haven't experienced this kind of pain yet? For them, understanding the psychology behind quiet elimination can act as a warning system. The earliest signs aren't dramatic. They show up in small ways. Your stomach feels tight before seeing someone. You become a quieter version of yourself around them, or you leave every conversation feeling drained or guilty. These are what therapists call somatic cues. The body whispering, something isn't right. Learning to listen early can save years of confusion. Many people ignore these signs because we're taught to see the best in others. We assume someone didn't mean the comment that hurt us. We excuse their moods. We think we're being understanding. But as psychology reminds us, one bad moment isn't a pattern, repetition is. And when someone keeps draining your peace, your brain begins to connect the dots, even if your heart refuses to. That's when the urge to step back quietly appears, long before you consciously choose it. Quiet elimination isn't avoidance. It's what happens when you've realized that talking won't change the dynamic. Some people can't receive feedback without attacking. Some can't respect boundaries without guilt-tripping. Some can't take responsibility without blaming. And your nervous system knows this. So instead of fighting a losing battle, it guides you toward the exit in the calmest way possible. And ultimately, quietly eliminating someone isn't about removing them. It's about removing the version of you who kept accepting the hurt. It's choosing calm over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over sacrificing yourself for someone who never showed up the way you deserved. It's not rejection, it's recovery. And even though it's quiet, it's one of the loudest ways your heart says, I'm choosing myself now. There are certain people who don't break you in one moment. They wear you down slowly in ways so subtle you don't even notice the damage until something inside you feels smaller, quieter, tighter. Psychology says we don't quietly eliminate people because we're cold. We do it because our nervous system recognizes emotional danger before our mind does. And these 6 patterns are the ones it reacts to first. The chronic taker, the person who receives without ever giving. You know this one, the friend who shows up only when they need something, your time, your energy, your emotional labor. Psychologists call this a self-focused relational style, where the relationship exists only as long as you're providing. Over time, your body starts to feel the imbalance. You feel drained, small, unimportant. Quiet distance becomes your way of protecting the parts of you that kept giving long after they were empty. The energy drainer, the one who brings chaos wherever they go. With them, everything is urgent, dramatic, or falling apart. Emotional dysregulation is the lens they see the world through, and without meaning to, they make you their emotional container. You hold the panic, the anger, the crisis. But your own system can only absorb so much. Eventually, you don't walk away because you stop caring, you walk away because you finally realize you deserve peace. The soft manipulator, the person who twists things just enough to make you doubt yourself. It's never obvious. It's guilt-tripping that sounds like concern, silent treatment that feels like punishment, small lies that make you second-guess your memory. These are micro-manipulations, and psychology calls them low-intensity gaslighting. You don't confront them because you can't prove anything, yet your body feels the truth. That truth becomes the first quiet step out the door. The chronic victim, the person who lives in a story where everything happens to them. You try to help, you offer solutions, you listen, you stay, but nothing changes because deep down, they're not looking for healing, they're looking for rescuers. This is learned helplessness, and you become the one carrying their life for them. When you step back, it's not unkindness. It's breaking out of a role you were never meant to play. The envious saboteur, the one who smiles at your success but never celebrates it. Their compliments feel sharp, their encouragement feels heavy, and every time you rise, something in them sinks. Hostile envy is subtle. It shows up in small jabs, backhanded comments, or the quiet way they disappear when good things happen to you. Stepping away from this kind of energy isn't betrayal, it's self-respect. The boundary breaker, the person who treats your no as a negotiation. They push, they take. They walk past the lines you draw because respecting them would mean seeing you as an equal. Psychology sees this as entitlement, based relating a dynamic where your needs are dismissed to maintain their control. When you start saying less, texting less, explaining less, that's not avoidance. That's autonomy finally waking up inside you. These people aren't bad. Some are hurting. Some are unaware. Some are stuck in old wounds of their own. But your healing can't depend on who they might become someday. Quiet distance is the moment you choose who you are becoming instead. There comes a moment in healing when you finally understand that choosing distance isn't an act of punishment, but an act of protection. When you've spent years trying to save relationships by giving more of yourself, there's a quiet breaking point where your mind whispers, "This is costing me too much." Psychology calls this a shift into self-preservation, the instinct that emerges when your emotional system realizes it's been running on empty for far too long. Quiet distance isn't about revenge. It's about recognizing the point where staying hurts more than leaving. What most people misunderstand is that stepping back quietly is rarely a sudden decision. It's the last step in a long process of trying to communicate, trying to compromise, trying to stay patient, trying to be the understanding one. When all those efforts fail, silence becomes the only language left that doesn't hurt you. For people who've lived through emotional chaos, quietly walking away is the safest option. It avoids confrontation, avoids escalation, avoids the cycle of guilt and blame that always seems to follow when you try to speak your truth. Your nervous system chooses peace long before your mind finds the words for it. Quiet distance also heals something deeper, the part of you that learnt to accept too little. Many of us grew up in relationships where our feelings were dismissed, minimized, or ignored. So as adults, we tolerate things that chip away at our self-worth because it feels familiar. Therapy calls this attachment conditioning. Your mind repeats what it knows, not what is healthy. Quietly eliminating harmful patterns isn't rejecting a person, it's rejecting the old version of yourself who settled for pain because it was all you understood. With distance comes clarity. The moment you step back, even just slightly, you start noticing how heavy the relationship actually was. You realize you've been shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. You notice how rare it felt to be heard. You see how tense your body became before every interaction. This is the part of healing that feels uncomfortable at first, the truth rising to the surface. But it's also the most liberating part, because clarity is the doorway to peace. Healing also means understanding that you are not responsible for someone else's emotional maturity. You can love someone deeply and still recognize that they are not safe for your inner world. You can care about them and still know the relationship drains the life out of you. Quiet distance honors both truths at the same time: the love you had and the person you are becoming. It's the compassionate boundary that says, I can care about you without sacrificing myself. The beauty of choosing quiet distance is that it creates space for healthier bonds. When you stop pouring energy into people who take endlessly, your capacity returns, your nervous system relaxes. You sleep better, you speak softer, you laugh more easily, and slowly, you begin attracting relationships that don't require you to abandon yourself to keep them alive. Healing isn't just about what you step away from, it's about what you make room for. Ultimately, quietly eliminating someone is rarely about them. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that were overlooked, overextended, or exhausted. It's choosing calm over chaos, dignity over discomfort, and inner stillness over emotional survival mode. Quiet distance is the moment you say, without raising your voice, I deserve better than this. And that quiet truth becomes the foundation of your healing. Quietly stepping away doesn't mean disappearing overnight. It's a gentle, intentional shift in how you show up, a shift that protects your energy without creating unnecessary conflict. The first step is accepting that you don't need permission to distance yourself. Most of us grew up believing we owe everyone explanations, closure, or emotional labor. But psychology calls this people-pleasing conditioning, a pattern built on fear of disappointing others. Healing begins the moment you allow yourself to make a decision based on your well-being rather than someone else's reaction. The second step is reducing emotional availability. Not suddenly, not harshly, just gradually. You respond a little slower. You share a little less. You stop initiating conversations that always leave you drained. This isn't passive-aggressive, it's nervous system care. When someone repeatedly disrupts your peace, your brain naturally seeks to limit exposure. You're simply following that instinct with awareness instead of guilt. In trauma psychology, this is called protective distancing, a healthy boundary for people who struggle with confrontation. Next comes shifting the level of intimacy. You don't owe everyone access to your inner world. You can keep conversations light, neutral, and safe. Stick to simple topics. Avoid sharing sensitive updates. When people can't be trusted with your heart, you don't punish them. You stop handing them the fragile parts of you. This subtle shift tells your body, I'm safe. I'm no longer overexposed. Over time, the relationship naturally finds a more distant place in your life without dramatic endings. Another quiet method is becoming more rooted in your own schedule. You don't drop everything anymore. You don't rearrange your life to keep the peace. You allow yourself to be busy in the way you truly are, not as an excuse, but as a boundary. People who respect you will understand. People who depended on your lack of boundaries will get frustrated. And their reaction is data. It shows you exactly why distancing was necessary. One of the most important steps is learning to sit with the guilt without obeying it. Guilt is a natural reaction when you've been conditioned to overgive. But guilt isn't truth, it's a habit. When it shows up, remind yourself, I'm not hurting them. I'm stopping myself from being hurt. This is the emotional reparenting stage of healing, where you teach yourself that boundaries aren't acts of betrayal, but acts of self-respect. Quiet distancing also means not explaining your decision unless you truly want to. Psychology shows that toxic or emotionally immature people rarely respond well to feedback. They twist it, argue with it, or use it to re-enter your life. That's why silent boundaries are sometimes the safest option. A soft fade out protects your peace without inviting more pain. And finally, you let the relationship find its new place without forcing closure. Distance does the work naturally. Conversations fade, expectations shrink, emotional responsibility returns to where it belongs with the other person. And as that happens, you'll feel something surprising. Relief. Suddenly you have more space to breathe, more clarity to think, and more energy for the people who truly value you. Quietly stepping back isn't running away. It's growing beyond what no longer fits. There's a moment in healing when you finally understand that protecting your peace doesn't require a villain. You don't need to paint anyone as bad to justify stepping back. You simply recognize what the connection has been doing to you, how it tightened your chest, dimmed your confidence, and pushed your nervous system into survival mode. And you choose not to keep living that way. Psychologists call this internal permission, the point where you stop bargaining with the part of you that always puts others first, and finally choose yourself. Quietly eliminating someone isn't punishment, it's release. It's stepping out of a dynamic where you kept shrinking, explaining, apologizing, or carrying blame that was never yours. Quiet distance is the boundary you set when all softer boundaries have already failed. It's the whisper inside you saying, I deserve to feel safe, long before you're brave enough to say it out loud. And once you start listening to that whisper, your healing becomes inevitable. People often mistake distance for coldness, but silence can be the kindest path when words only guarantee more pain. Confronting someone who cannot listen leads to arguments, guilt-tripping, or manipulation. Your mind knows this, your body knows this, so you step back, not out of apathy, but because you've learned, often through painful experiences, that protecting your energy matters more than proving your point. This quiet wisdom comes from surviving situations you should have left long before. As space grows between you and the dynamic that drained you, something shifts internally. The weight you normalized begins to lift. Stress that once felt like just life starts to dissolve. You breathe easier, think clearer, feel lighter. You finally have the emotional room for people who love you in ways that don't hurt. Psychologists call this restorative peace, when your nervous system stops scanning for threats and remembers what safety feels like. And then, almost unexpectedly, you meet yourself again, the version of you who doubted everything, who softened your needs to keep the peace, who tolerated disrespect because you feared being left. That version loosens its grip. In its place, a steadier, stronger you emerges, someone who knows their worth, someone who loves with openness but protects themselves with boundaries, someone who understands that self-respect is a form of love too. You don't have to hate anyone to walk away. You don't even have to explain it. Healing isn't about winning. It's about choosing environments where your heart is respected and your nervous system is calm. Quiet elimination isn't rejection, it's acceptance. Acceptance that the chapter has ended because you've outgrown the pain that once kept you there. Choosing peace doesn't make you cold, it makes you whole, loyal to yourself, loyal to the life you're trying to build. And if peace requires silence, let that silence be your beginning, not an ending, but a return to yourself. Quietly stepping back from the wrong people is never about cruelty. It's about giving yourself the peace you should have had all along. If this felt familiar, know that your healing is valid and your boundaries are allowed. Take what you need, grow at your own pace, and surround yourself with those who make you feel safe to be you. And if you want more gentle guidance on this journey, you're always welcome to stay and listen.